Aquaman allows me to make a world creation film.
It's a fantasy world. So literally everything has to be made up. From James, it's one of the most exciting parts of the process.
It's challenging because you're designing a whole different world that we've never seen before, and you're doing it from scratch. In the comic book, they incorporated Atlantis into the storyline of the DC universe. And I really love to dive into that world and basically create my version of what Atlantis would look like. And so to do that, I have to go further back, give it backstory. And some of it I pulled from the mythology and legends that we're familiar with, but other things I get to kind of create my own. Our Atlantis is a civilization that has been around for a long time. They're way more advanced than everyone else was at that time, thousands of years ago. And so I went and talked with my production designer, Bill Bretsky, and just designed the world with him.
Me and James, we wanted to make a neoclassic culture that was on the verge of like digital technology, because they weren't like a primitive culture that went underwater. They're already pretty advanced. But the thing they invented gave them power to live underwater.
One of the things I really wanted to jump into early on is just getting the aesthetic correct. And we have an amazing army of concept designers and artists who are so brilliant in what they do, and just bring them on board early on and just talking to them about the look, the style, and the kind of flavor that I'm going on for the world. I'm a very hands-on designer. I love drawing myself. And so I'll kind of get in there, be behind their shoulders and kind of go, oh, what about, if we draw the trident more like this? Maybe just skinny up. It might look better, right? Look more dangerous if it's more pointy. That's just the process that I love, drawing and designing this incredibly vivid and lush world.
Hey, James, go on, ladies and gentlemen. Those early days of us sitting in a room with a bunch of artists and James just coming up with, what about this? And what if this is the way the city worked? It was really exciting. The royal guards are only in the royal palace, right? Or anything related like the Colosseum, but we don't see them outside of that. We don't ever see them in battles or anywhere else.
As a director, I try to put myself in the shoe of an Atlantean and go, what is a day in the life of an Atlantean look like? How do they eat? How do they sleep? How do they use the bathroom? And so you have to think about all that stuff, and all that stuff then affects, the world that you're trying to create. Here in the surface world, we built things out of materials such as brick, wood, metal. They don't necessarily have that down there. And so we're trying to pull a lot of influences from the ocean. The idea that maybe their buildings are very much like coral, that they're grown, perhaps, right? And how does that work? And is it a living thing that they live inside? Is the building just glowing with bioluminescent glow? They're so deep down that sunlight doesn't penetrate the ocean at that depth. So what provides the light source? That's the kind of stuff that we have to really dig deep into.
The development on this movie was a huge effort. It was just amazing the amount of stuff that came out of James's mind.
This part here, when it's like this, it blocks the point of impact.
And he's not going to settle for anything that isn't exactly what he was hoping for.
So I think what's happening more towards this camera. Good. Let's cut it. Going to this, I knew that it would be super visual effects heavy. And I don't think there is one frame in this movie that isn't touched by visual effects in some ways. Through the sort of post-production process of working on the visual effects, working on the CGI, we started to fine-tune and hone the look.
We started out doing renditions of what an underwater environment would look like. And we had to really leverage other aspects that will be visual cues to the audience that we are indeed underwater.
Just trying to go, okay, at what point does this look like water? And one of the things we found through our discovery process is we constantly need just particles floating particulates.
So we always have this particulate in our water volume. And you'll notice that as the characters move through the water volumes, that particulate moves around them and it moves with them.
That really helped to remind the audience that they're underwater. And of course, the flowing hair really helps that.
One of the most important visual cues for underwater was what we did with the hair. I mean, we knew going into this that the hair was going to be difficult, but I don't think anyone appreciated how difficult it was going to be. In an underwater environment, all the hair just sort of tends to do its own thing, and this created for incredible computational hurdles to overcome. ILM actually rewrote their software trying to design this. I mean, there's over 500 shots in the movie where we had to add hair to our characters.
What's the plan again?
Plan is to not get killed.
Very early on in the process, James and I had a long discussion about how we're going to be dealing with talking underwater.
Wait, you can talk underwater? Hey, I can talk underwater too! This is awesome!
And what we wound up doing was thinking about how we talk. We make sounds by exhaling air over our vocal cords. So they have adapted their vocal cords to make noise when water is passed over them. When they exhale water, they make sounds the same way we do when we talk through the air.
Oh, we can do more than just talk.
So everything visual would start from the seed of the story concept. When you know your characters really well, when you know your world really well, it makes it easier for you to kind of visually design the world.
James has a very clear vision of what he wants to do, but then he'll turn to you and say, what do you think? And then he listens, and he's very much a best idea wins kind of director, but definitely the captain of the ship at the same time.
Very good. Let's cut. Let's roll right into another one. Filmmaking is such a difficult task, and it's great when we work together because we all want to make a great film. And action! I'm such a big fan of the superhero universe and science fiction movies and those big, giant Japanese kaiju films. And I felt that this movie really allows me to touch on all these different worlds that I love, that I'm such a fan of. And it was such an honor for me to get the opportunity to create this film.
Superhero movies are only as good as the supervillains that the heroes are battling against. Orm and Black Manta delivered on all fronts.
If you look at Jason strictly as a visual cutout, you know, he looks like a biker, he looks like a tough guy that you wouldn't want to pick a fight with in a bar.
You got enough footage.
Knowing Jason is the big dude, you know, and I'm barely 6 feet. So you got to do a lot of work, otherwise you just look like a skinny guy in a muscle suit.
I wanted to gain weight, man. I wanted to get kind of big, but because of the way that the suit's going to be built, if I get too big, then I'll be bulky and things like that. But I'll probably still sneak on about a good 8 pounds or something like that between now and May. They won't notice, or they will, but they'll deal with it.
When we made Patrick the offer for King Orm, and obviously he knew that Jason was playing Arthur Curry, he said, I am going to start working out this exact instant.
We've been busting our ass so much to try to give him a formidable opponent. You can't just see Aquaman kick everybody's ass. You want, like, just a shred of, can he do this? Maybe he can't. The goal for this was weight gain, getting bigger, stronger. I did it before, the wrong way, which was fun. Can't really do that here.
I've always known Patrick to be a very physical guy, and I knew that this role would give him the opportunity to really showcase how strong he can be.
When he showed up down here, he was a monster. And he really had transformed himself into a guy that when he stands next to Jason, you're not sure who's going to win that fight.
I got my mind blown by Patrick Wilson on my first day, and I said, oh, that's the movie that we're doing. A lot of my job is to work out and, you know, clank an iron. It's like playing a sport or something like that, and then someone gets a little bit more physical. And then you say, oh, okay. Oh, it's like that. We're playing like that. Game on.
We need badass Black Manta. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't get him, so this guy'll do. I'm just, I beat the out of him, so, you know.
Lift your head. You look sad. I know you do. You're like, oh.
As long as I can look really good for my shirt off scene and steal all of Jason's fans. I want them to say, I want Black Manta to win.
I'm the good guy.
No.
Yeah, it's just terrific. And I think he's brought a sense of intensity to the role.
I have a shirt off scene that's coming later on. We did a screen test. James said, hey, let's just zip that down and let's just get some shots. So I zipped it down. I came back a couple of days later and they said, hey man, I think the shirt's gotta come off, man. We gotta do some rewrites, you know, so. I'm happy about that.
Because there's numerous characters in here, we start out in the drill process to see what their strengths and weaknesses are, and we build on their strengths, and that's how we choreograph their fights. If you're bigger and stronger like Jason, you're gonna make him look brute power, strength, more like barroom brawler. But you still have to have a little flair to it. And then Patrick, he's the king. He has a kind of arrogance.
I am the one true king.
And we also wanted Orm to be a little more flashy, so it's a little more fluid than maybe a little less brute than Arthur has at some points.
And then, of course, there's Black Manta, who's a pirate, and you just want to make him more like the street. You know, he's not a superhero, he's just a scrapper. He's a scrappy fighter. So that's how we designed his fights.
We fight with our hands and we fight with whatever we can find and pick up. I got my gauntlet that comes out.
Damn, you don't know your own strength, my friend.
He comes in, jetpacks, he's flying. I have laser eyes. I'm so prepared now, so prepared.
Patrick got big, but Yaya got ripped. I'm not sure who put on more weight, but Yaya definitely, he won.
What's up, Patrick? What's up now?
And I always joke, like, man, I did like 5 months of working out and what was on screen, which literally comes down to about one arm, to be quite honest with you.
Man, those guys just ate whatever they wanted to and lift weights like bastards.
I like to work on Jason more than I work on Aquaman. So we have those little inside jokes when we get on set, get across from each other. And I whisper, oh, so man, you just turned 38, that's almost 40. That's pretty cool, man. You know, 38, 40, just round up, just get there already, you know. Leave the 30s to me. I got my butt kicked a lot of days for that.
I mean, these stunt guys are just unbelievable. They really are. The whole team, from top to bottom, you know, really make us look great.
We teach them the moves, but they're the ones that bring it to life.
The best thing about playing a villain is that you have the best lines. I think I'm gonna need a bigger helmet. And you win all the fights except for the last one.
And if it wasn't for that darn Mara, I would have had him. Would have been a much shorter movie.
Atlantis, Sebel, the Fishermen, Rhine, Deserters, Trench, and the Lost Nation. These 7 kingdoms make up a rich, complex undersea world, with mysteries waiting to be revealed to surface dwellers for the first time. I'm Dolph Lundgren, and I play King Nereus of Sebel in Aquaman. The myth of Atlantis has inspired storytellers for centuries, and its effect has been profound in the world of comic books. In the 1940s, the original incarnation of DC's Atlantis was just deserted ruins, discovered by Arthur Curry's father. Only later were we introduced to a thriving, futuristic Atlantis, a majestic kingdom with a more personal connection to Aquaman. Now, James Wan has reinvented Atlantis for a new age. To create such a vital and revelatory environment, he combined historical legends with the DC Comics canon and added his own incredible vision. James Wan's kingdoms are so compelling because they have history. They're established nations with deeply felt roots and traditions. In the time before the Great Fall, ancient Atlantis was a culture on the verge of a digital revolution, but their civilization was inevitably doomed to crumble under its own might. After the Great Fall, the kingdoms broke into separate realms, each with a unique history, society, and aesthetic. Imagine diving thousands of feet below the surface, gliding past undiscovered ancient ruins, then cresting a ridge to behold the shining city of Atlantis. Its 400-foot walls and looming plasma cannons guarding a gateway to a mysterious new world. Modern Atlantis became a thriving, industrialized metropolis with hordes of vehicles speeding along aquatic highways. Like their ancestors, they're dedicated to technological advancement and the consolidation of power. And they have a ring of fire. None of the other kingdoms have a ring of fire.
Never thought I'd see the day when my own father would bow before the king of Atlantis.
We never get a look at the kingdom of Zebul in the film, but as its king, I have the inside scoop. Zebul has a long history in the comic books. It began as an otherworldly dimension where Mera ruled as queen. But as the comics were updated, Zebul became a prison colony under Atlantis' control. In the film, Zebul is the sister kingdom to Atlantis and his chief rival. To be honest, we might be able to take him in a fair fight, but we've always preferred politics to all-out war.
Violence has always plagued the surface. They will destroy themselves.
Zebul may be less warlike than Atlantis, but they're even more enamored with their royalty. So, of course, my people love their king, but I think they may love Princess Mera even more. The Fisherman Kingdom is a peaceful, intuitive culture whose fish-like physical evolution is the source of mankind's mythical stories of sirens and mermaids. Their architecture has a Gothic feel, which is fitting for their more philosophical, poetic way of life. The fishermen are less interested in the domination of the ocean than coexisting with it. That is, until King Orm and I persuade them otherwise. Choosing to harness the power of undersea lava flows, the brine have taken on the attributes of massive armored crustaceans. The tribe has been toughened by constant heat and pressure due to their proximity to the Earth's core and the extreme depth of their kingdom. In many ways, the brine are the opposite of the fishermen. This warrior race has the strongest military of all the kingdoms, and they value a show of force over negotiation, which is why Orm gathered the might of all the other kingdoms before attacking them.
Death to the Atlantean hagfish!
The deserters were the weapon builders of Atlantis. Since they'd already separated from Atlantis before the Great Fall, they survived that initial cataclysm only to succumb to its after effects. Cut off from the majority of their civilization and coping with a rapidly changing climate, the deserter kingdom sank under a different kind of deluge, an ocean of sand. Their colossal machinery and statues of great warriors are all that remain of their once great culture.
This is the Hall of Armory, where the legends say Atlan's trident was forged.
The Trench Kingdom, if one can call it a kingdom, is a nightmarish world shrouded in darkness. This devolved, beast-like race was created by Jeff Johns for his new 52 reboot of Aquaman, and James Wan jumped at the chance of creating an even more horrific version of them. The Trench fell further than any other faction, shunning the advancement of their species and instead regressing to an animalistic form. They make their home in the Mariana Trench, the deepest natural point in the ocean, clinging to the craggy walls and scavenging for flesh. But they'll pop up to the surface if they can sense a tasty morsel or two. The headless statue among the Council of Kings is the only clue we have about the mysterious lost nation. Who were they? Where are they now? Perhaps we'll meet them in the future. With Aquaman, James Wan is giving us a visionary take on an ancient world. We've seen the kingdoms of the seven seas rise, fall, and rise again. It feels like its story, and Aquaman's, has only just begun.
One of the most fun things for me about making this movie is designing the different creatures that populate this crazy underwater world.
There's a wide range of creatures inhabiting the underwater world. Some of the creatures are familiar and some are very new. It's an unexplored world.
The world of Atlantis has all sorts of unknown life that we've never seen before, and it comes springing from the imagination of James Wan and all the great artists that worked on the project. Aquaman riding a seahorse is one of the most absurd images from the comics. And one of the challenges going into this was, how do you get past the sort of joke of Aquaman riding the seahorse? What James wanted to do was embrace it. Let's not pretend that these aren't the iconic images of Aquaman. Let's make them cool and make them awesome.
Going into it, I wanted different animals to differentiate the two separate kingdoms. With the Zibalians, they have taken to seahorses. And the king rides in on a beautiful, majestic sea dragon. They do feel like ancient knights, but with a sort of fantasy science fiction twist to it. Meanwhile, the Atlanteans have domesticated and tamed all the really dangerous sharks.
Willem gets to ride this giant black hammerhead shark with some really spectacular armor on it.
It was very important that the animals would in some way have personalities that tied in with the characters that would write them. And that's definitely the reason why King Orm's animal is an ancient tylosaur.
Orm, I think he gets the coolest one. He's riding this armored tylosaur that just looks so badass.
We have 7 kingdoms of the underwater world. And one of the kingdoms is known as the Fisherman Kingdom. These are more like mer people. They're peaceful, docile people.
The fishermen people are more intellectuals, scholars, and artists. They are ones that want to make peace with the surface dwellers.
That initial design work had started, I think, early on with James and a couple illustrators, but way down the line, even into filming, we were still redesigning those characters. They need to be more grounded and give them a bit more humanity, so we went in and redesigned them and kind of created class systems as well. Like you see the soldiers are very fish-like, where you look at the royal kingdom and they're very evolved and more human.
The fishermen people are basically a combination of practical makeup effects and a lot of visual effects augmentation.
We did full bodysuits from the waist up with silicone hand appliances and full silicone face pieces, cowls, contact lenses, and teeth. The only part that we may have in visual effects is a little bit of gill movement, but overall it's a full prosthetic makeup.
Prepare your armor, your words. We move against the blind kingdom at once.
The Brine Kingdom are literally the bottom feeders of Atlantis. They are the most maligned and looked down upon of the other societies.
They were humans, they turned into crabs. So they're kind of like what we want for dinner. And they got multiple legs, and they're kind of brutish, and they live low on the ground in caves.
The brine people, they don't swim, they walk. And these creatures are big, heavier people with massive armor. And so we started with that idea, designing what the king would look like.
There's quite a bit of inspiration that came from really early deep sea diver suits. But he's not wearing a suit, that's his natural form.
Yeah!
to the Atlantean hagfish!
The ocean is a magical place, but it's also terrifying as well. And so I wanted this movie to be able to reflect our feelings of the great and powerful ocean.
I love the ocean. It's something that absolutely scares me and draws me in. And it's super spooky. If you've been in the middle of the ocean and you just look down, it's pretty terrifying because it's all the unknown, right? You never know what's down there.
The Trench Kingdom, I had a great starting off point because they're featured very prominently in Jeff Johns' New 52. And so I used that to dive into the world of the Trench Kingdom. These scary, trench-dwelling, cannibalistic creatures. But through that idea, I started to develop something that's a bit different. In the comic book, they have big, giant eyes. But I started to realize that these characters probably would not have eyes because when you're so far down, the sun doesn't penetrate that far and there's no light. If anything, they're afraid of bright lights. And so then that started informing what the creatures would really look like. The trench creatures really allow me to lean into the horror aspect of the ocean.
The Trench are a super dangerous group, and James has an incredible sequence. It harkens back to his pure horror days. It's like Creature from the Black Lagoon, but the 2018 version.
Down here we have a legend about the Karathan, an ancient sea monster so powerful that even King Atlan himself feared it. And now the beast has awakened.
This creature is nearly as old as time itself.
First and foremost, it's ginormous. In real-world scale, from tip of the nose to the end of its longest tentacle, it's 2 miles long.
We needed to design a creature that is big enough to take on Orm's entire army.
There's some aspects to it that are crab or lobster-like. It also is part giant squid.
It pulled from design aesthetic from the ocean, infusing it with my love for H.P. Lovecraft to create the most powerful creature on Earth.
Permission to come aboard.
The film opens with a really cool submarine sequence. This is Aquaman's hero's intro to this movie.
I wanted him to be very much like a bar fighter, smashing heads, kicking knees out, and grabbing things. It's just gonna be a fun character to watch fight.
He's strong. Even without his superpowers, he's strong.
And I barely used any force on that one.
The submarine set piece was literally the first day of photography. There's no better place to start than at the deep end.
First scene, I got my helmet on with my tubes. Helmet comes off. You know what I mean? It's the most badass thing I've done on film, thus far.
The location has been somewhat of a challenge because of how confined the space is.
Tiny quarters, big wire gags. Everything was steel, metal, aluminium, hard edges. It was a good way to start the film for us.
We pad the sets. This is kind of crazy. Rubber. This is all rubber. It's because a guy hits his head on it, We throw people against the walls, and these are rubber stairs. We've gotten very good at molding rubber things.
Jason's great. He's really good with us and looks after us at the same time because he's a big boy, so he makes sure he gives us the right amount of strength but doesn't hurt us.
Jason's a pro. He's like an expert at hand-to-hand combat and things like that, so I just follow Jason's lead on that stuff. My father gets pinned against the wall, and Aquaman's freaking leaving like a jerk. So Aquaman, in a sense, chooses to let his father die.
By allowing David's father to die, in many ways sows the seeds for Manta's revenge.
You can't lead him like this! You killed innocent people. You're asked to seek for mercy.
It's a great introduction to Aquaman. It's a great introduction to Jason. I think it really gives you an insight into who that character is.
The idea of Aquaman coming onto a submarine and saving the day is a really cool way to introduce this character.
Mert crashes down here, right? He gets up, right? He runs that way. We follow behind him. Bam, through the wall. Bam, through the wall again. The camera spins around him to his back. Right, Mert then runs down here. Maybe he jumps down. And then somewhere along in the hallway here, the camera goes out the window. And then we see her run. And then the camera then does a zoom back to find Arthur in the foreground here by the bell tower.
James has ideas that scare you at first sometimes when he gives them to you. You're like, oh, I don't know how we're going to achieve this.
He lands, crashes, a few cuts there. He looks up, we cut to his POV, see mirror running, then he goes running, then our one-shot thing starts.
We were talking about it at the conception for months. We had people running and jumping down a set of stairs, land on the ground, and keep going. And James wanted to do it as one continuous shot.
The Merc Run sequence was a really fun one to design. We would kind of like miniature rooftops kind of laid out, you know, cardboard boxes, and then toy figures that we would jump from places to places. And I would talk about, you know, where we would want to put the camera.
Right, I like the idea of being on a cable cam that go with him. We go down and without cutting, right?
I want it to be an experiential moment for the audience as well. And so they're not just watching it from outside looking in. I want them to be inside as well.
Whenever we do a one shot, it's not to show how clever we are, but to say, come with us and be with us on the journey.
John McAfee is this amazing second unit director, and I work closely with him trying to work out, you know, what's the best way to shoot that.
Preparation is everything for this.
Couple of dry runs before you hook up. Go.
We have tested in our early stages our camera technology, our visceral feeling of how we want to capture it. A million things do have to go right.
Good, roll videos on the frame frame.
James captures one-shots that, you know, no one would dare take on.
Yeah, man, the one.
But, you know, he'll challenge you to do that.
Roll sound and cameras for slate.
And we did it with quite a few sequences. That one in particular was amazing, and it's a one-shot from start to finish.
3, 2, 1, go.
With the camera guy following in tow. They're both on lines, they're running through walls, they're getting connected from one system to another as they turn.
No! Okay, good! Resets! 3, 2, 1, go!
Going down balconies.
Woo! God, brother.
Yeah!
If I have 3 different set pieces happening at the same time, I love to sort of find a way visually to kind of bring and tie them all together in post-production. And we start out with that long Merc run, and then at some point we leave him, and then we go see who it is that he's chasing, and that is Mira in this case, running across the rooftop.
We transition into a shot where we track upward and find Mira running on the rooftops. We blend that with her running, being chased, jumping over things.
And the camera keeps pulling back. Then we go to Arthur and like Manta at the end. It's all over the place. And so that just adds to the visual interest of the sequence.
It's hard to reinvent the wheel, but I think what James really does well too is give you a different way to view the wheel.
We have a sequence when we're on the sailing vessel and we're being thrashed about in the middle of a tempest, and the conditions were very real. We're working under a torrential downpour, which is exacerbated by the fact that just to get rain to read on camera, it can't just be a normal rain. It has to be the equivalent of a fire hose pointed straight at you.
It's a great sequence with Arthur and Mara on the boat getting attacked by the trench creatures, and it is pure horror. And James loves that stuff.
Pulling off the kind of horror and suspense and all the traits that you need to make a great horror film, he's got that, which is awesome.
I definitely love the trench creatures because it does allow me to hark back to my horror roots. And so I went all out and basically made those sequences just monster movies, like just sea creature monster movies. Yeah, I think they should have their own movie.
We had limited vision with the costumes. We had guys on stilts, a 6-way motion base on a ship, tons of water. It basically was the perfect storm of what you don't want to have to deal with. It was tough. In that water, in that rain, in the wind, they're jumping on and off boats, fighting with Jason, fighting with Amber.
When you're in the rain and the boat's moving and the lights go off, that's fun. You're in it and you're being real.
They're from the depths! They're scared of the light!
It was a lot of fun. That was like real movie making.
Throughout that whole sequence, it was James' idea to use the lightning to like strike the water and light the water up from underneath. And so you get this beautiful subsurface lighting quality where you get this sort of emerald green coming through. And it just takes what can be like a very sort of abstract, featureless, stormy environment and gives you these moments where you get like super clarity. You know, that there's like a huge wave out there and it's backlit and you can sort of see through it. And it makes it beautiful.
The trench sequence was one that I really wanted to create a visual look that looks like a split screen of the ocean.
You see them with their red torch swimming down and just tens of thousands of trench coming in and following them down to the bottom. It's just an awesome shot.
That part was really fun for me, trying to come up with a cool approach to digital filmmaking and to kind of challenge myself to do stuff that I haven't quite seen before.
When the trench are swarming underwater, James is like, oh, wouldn't it be great if they're just like doing this sort of corkscrewing, double helix sort of pattern? It's really cool, really well done.
We treated these creatures like pack animals, where they work in a cohesive sort of team kind of way.
And it just took it from something that just sort of felt like, you know, flocking or swarming and just gave it a lot more visual interest.
So it was a fun one to dive into.